friends. Thank you for coming to participate in this blog adventure we're going to have together. All of the information that I present on my work has come from interviews that I've done with people in the world of spirit. And one of them that is the source of today's material was with Buckminster Fuller, or Bucky Fuller, as he was known, one of the great geniuses of our time. Bucky was obviously in the world of spirit, which is how I could be doing that. But if you had Leonardo da Vinci on the phone, wouldn't you ask him all the things that you were wondering about? And one of the things that I wanted to know is, what is time? Bucky answered me that time is an energy flow. Time is a flow of energy. We perceive it here in physical because we're fairly static. So we feel time flowing through us, okay, because we're pretty static here. And time is the flow of energy that carries potential out of God's source, origin, mystery, whatever your word for God is, into expression. And after completion of expression, energy returns to God's source, mystery, origin. And it's carried on the conveyor belt of time. So it's interesting how we experience time so differently here. For example, do you remember on Friday night when you got out of school and the weekend was looming like this amazing gift? Saturday went by in a blink, and all of a sudden on Sunday evening, time kind of ground to a halt. I know that my husband and I are sensing time much, it's like time has accelerated for us. We sort of, instead of being aware of the weeks, now we identify more with what month is it, or what season is it? But I want to explain why we feel time differently, not just here in physical, but in general. Okay, so after our metamorphosis, that is death, we are back in the world of spirit. And we have the sensory memory body, and that is the closest experience we will have to the physicality of the prior life, even though our experience in the near-earth deceased experience is based on memory. We can still feel the flow of time to some extent, and we're still sort of involved with what's happening on Earth. So that also orients us to the calendar, the seasons, what's happening here. But as we purify our vehicle, and what I mean by that is that we drop sheaths, or some people call them bodies. We get into a lighter and lighter body, and eventually the light body, obviously, which is pure mind. But our human identity has to be dropped before that happens. So as we move through increasingly energized experiences after this one, physical, we will feel time less and less. And then when we are merged once again with God's source origin, time doesn't exist. And so that's why so many of the deceased say that time doesn't really matter to them. anymore. So I thought that was fun. But do you remember being a bored teenager and time just sort of ground to a halt? Well, I don't know whether the teenagers are bored anymore. They're so glued to their devices, but we can have very different experiences of this flow of time. For example, I remember an auto accident that was happening, and it seemed like slow motion. We weren't terribly hurt. We did hit the car that pulled out in front of us, but it's funny how the time went to absolutely slow motion, or our perception of it. But I wanted to talk about how Joseph Campbell told me something about time that I didn't really connect until I understood what Bucky was saying about time being a flow of energy. And that is, Joseph Campbell said that when we experience the eternal, when we can evoke the experience of the eternal, which some people can do in prayer, meditation, mantra, yoga, walking in the woods, jogging, being at the ocean, being on a lake, watching a beautiful sunset. I mean, there's lots of different ways that we can evoke this feeling within ourselves of the eternal. And he said, Joe said, that this is how we experience divinity. And so even Joe was making the correlation between the lack of time and being merged with Source, being merged with God. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on time, and we'll see you next time.